Ajith, looks you're on mute
Yeah.
all this time.
Hi, folks. Thanks for joining in. We seem to be having a little bit of technical difficulties. As Murphy's Law says, anything that can go wrong goes wrong. We're just waiting for Ajith to, be able to connect his voice so that he can start us off on the webinar that we have organized. Thank you.
Do you hear me?
Yes.
It seems like that I am audible now. Am I?
Yes.
Excellent. So, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Sorry for the little mishap with my microphone. And welcome to the third webinar on diversity, equity, and inclusion, which is themed as demystifying biases for this seminar. And today I have with me to support me in the host Audrey, Fernando Gunaratna, and also Imali Anuradha Jayawardene. Audrey Fernando Gunaratna is HR and OD professional with over 8 years experience working on gender, equity, diversity, and inclusions in major parts of Asia and Middle East. Jayawardene is a learning and development professional with over 8 years of experience in staff development, strategic learning, and implementation. She also has worked locally and across Asia Pacific. And to tell you a little bit about myself, I'm Bopitiya, the Executive Director of Asia Pacific HR Academy, which is an institute that prepares students from Asia Pacific region for the US certification under the titles APHR, that is Associate Professional Resource International, HRI for Professional Human Resource International, SPHRI, that is Senior Professional in Human Resource International, and of course in Human Resources, that is GPHR. So we will prepare students for these examinations and certifications with a money back guarantee, and that is the best part of the deal for all the students in Sri Lanka. Now, to the agenda, I think we will switch over to Audrey. But before that, let me welcome the speakers as well, because Chanthuru and Kaushal are the experts to whom we are talking to today, so that hands-on experience of theirs to learn how they have managed biases inside their organization, how they have overcome the challenges that are faced by any HR person in any organization when you try to introduce DEI agenda. I also must explain why we are doing it, because at the end we would like to ensure that very clear and simplified guide all the organizations in Sri Lanka to just download free of charge and do whatever the amendments that they wish to do with the installation of DEI policy framework in their respective organizations. So, in mind, we have got this series together with experts, panelists from various angles, from various organizations. From the first one to the third one, we have, and it is a pleasure to see my two colleagues, Audrey and Imali, taking over the session and going ahead. So over to you, Audrey.
Thanks. Thanks, Ajith. Let me start off by giving a little bit more background on Kaushal and Chandru. Ajith, if you could help me with the slides. So, Chandru is the founding director of Provincial Youth Network, PYEN, in northern Sri Lanka. It is a youth-led voluntary network that is working on youth empowerment. He is a trainer on diversity and inclusion within the scope of HR and is part of Connect, Respect and Grow ideology in order to create a conducive working environment for all. Kaushal is the HR director for Pizza Hut and Taco Bell. He serves on the board of SLEDA as well. He is exceptionally strong in the areas of industrial and employee relations, compensation and benefits management, talent management, and strategic HR management. His career path has taken him through diverse range of industries. So we have a full, we have a wealth of knowledge between the two of them today to tap into in discussing diversity in demystifying biases. Today's agenda, we will talk about the conceptual framework and why biases is discussing bias is important. And then we will move on to a panel discussion. We will give you loads of time to ask questions and answers, and Ajith will lead us in closing. So when we first spoke about diversity and inclusion in our very first webinar, those who joined us may remember, we talked about 3 areas. One was on individuals. The second one was on policies and processes. The third was on culture. When you look at culture, culture is built with stories, values, attitudes, rituals, leadership behaviors, relationships, power structures, etc. Right? And bias plays a kind of a hidden role in informing this culture in the organization. Bias can be generally looked at as the gravitation towards a certain preference. For people who look like us, for people who sound like us, or for people with similar social and other backgrounds. So why is it important for us to consider bias? Why does it matter to our business? Let's take the story of Starbucks. please bear with us until while we get the soundtrack. Okay, maybe we move ahead. So when you look at the story of Starbucks, the manager of one of the Starbucks in USA, Philadelphia, met two black guys who wanted to use the lavatory facilities. And the manager ended up calling the police. The police responded and took these two black guys into custody, which led to protests and boycotting Starbucks. On the 28th of May, 2018, Starbucks CEO made the decision to close all the Starbucks outlets. It was over 8,000 outlets in USA, and to have a diversity and inclusion training to tackle racial bias and to look at policies and review their processes so that it never happens again. So there is an impact on our business when we have staff or when our policies and procedures give way to bias. Let's look at internally now. How about our staff? How does bias affect our staff? If you think about the employee life circle and say recruitment, the starting point of everything, we might find that in some cases that we look at school names, appearances, etc. when we make the decisions. Even when we are placing an ad, sometimes we make the distinction of, say a certain age limit or a certain gender, saying that that would be more preferable when it doesn't really have a real relationship to what the job is. Say for an HR, I have seen announcements that say, male, within brackets you say male. The HR function is not gender specific. It has nothing to do with gender. So why make it a male position? So these are things that we sometimes through our processes we are doing it, and sometimes when we want to recruit, when people come for interviews, we end up doing that. If you look at work allocation, when you have connections and when you trust somebody in your department, you are more likely to provide them the opportunity to take stretch assignments, to back up for you when you're absent, etc. This is also a certain bias where you are unconsciously picking somebody else over the others without any justifiable reason. When you look at giving feedback, when you have a relationship with someone, you are more likely to give direct feedback. Whereas feedback is, you are reluctant or anxious to give feedback to someone you don't have a relationship with. You're more likely to discuss ideas over coffee or at the water cooler or during lunch with somebody who you have that connection with. If you look at informal mentoring and informal support, you end up promoting somebody that you have a connection with, that you like, that you would like to see grow. It may not always be about the best person for the position. It may not always be have a justifiable criteria behind it. This is how bias influences decisions that we take on our employees. I'm going to hand over to Imali now, who is going to lead us and help us understand bias a little deeper. Thanks, Imali. Ajith, could you help Imali with the voice?
Okay, Imali, I, okay. Imali, you can speak up and see whether we could hear you.
Ajith, I think she's on mute, maybe.
No, she is not. No, she is not on mute.
That's all right. Things do happen. So today it's crazy weather outside.
Yeah, yeah.
Ajit, you're not audible, Ajit.
Hello?
Yes, now I can hear you. Yeah. It went off again, Ajit.
I was audible earlier.
Yeah, now you're audible.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
So, Audrey, can you take on the presentation? Go ahead with the presentation. Is Audrey there? Okay, let me go ahead with the presentation. as we know, right, we all can be subject to biases from time, and these biases could be certainly prejudices or tendencies, or have subject ourselves to or judgments with regard to other people. And to explain this, I think something that we can easily is to make sure that we are able to identify these things and separate items. So I'm going to show you one of the pictures or a scenario, right? We need more young blood in this office. People under 40 are the ones who make change happen, a manager says. And HR replies and says, and how should we advertise? Only people under 40 apply? Okay. Do you think, is this situation, is it a prejudice or is it a tendency to prefer one of the society with others over the others? Or are we trying to stereotype? That means put everything into a level of the way that we see them? Or is it a personal judgment of mine? So actually, what you can do is you can use your comment section to your thoughts or the answers. You can put either A, B, or C, or D. Hello, Audrey. Would you like to take the next one?
Yes, Ajith. If you could help
All
me
right.
change the slide, please.
I will. Sure.
In a situation where somebody says, I think we should hire her, she's brilliant, she's from my school, and what do you think that is, that bias is, where somebody also responds and agrees with it and says, oh right, we already have one. Does that sound like a prejudice, a tendency, a stereotype, or a judgment? So just, we will read these situations and you can put the number of the slide saying 1, 2, 3, etc., and then put A, B,
No, it's
C,
A, B, C,
and
D.
D.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The slide number 2, the answer
Yeah.
is A or B or C or D, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Over to you, Audrey. Sorry.
Thanks, Ajith. So if we go to the next slide, at the end of the presentation, we will reveal what their answers are. Okay, if we move on to the next slide. So someone in your organization says, we need to focus on diversity. Now go hire people who look different, but think like me. Noted. How can we expect any change? So do you think it's a prejudice, a tendency, a stereotype, or is it a judgment? So if you think it's a prejudice, mark A. If you think it's a tendency, mark B. If you think it's a stereotype, mark C. And if you think it's a judgment, mark D. This is the third slide. Ajith, if we move on to the next slide. So imagine a situation where someone says, "Are you telling me Roy is the new marketing manager? That guy in bandana and tattoos?" And the other person responds, "I know, HR approved the recruitment after all." In this situation, the type of bias, the unconscious bias, do you think it is a prejudice, a tendency, a stereotype, or a judgment? Okay. Hi, everyone. I know we've had some technical difficulties. Please bear with us. This is a short exercise that we're doing to familiarize ourselves with different types of unconscious bias. And we are waiting to collect the answers and present it at the end of the session. And we will let you know what the percentage of the answers were against each of the questions.
Okay. Is our friend Imali still inaudible? Hello, Imali. Are you okay? Still inaudible, right? Yeah, we can't hear you, unfortunately. Right. Okay. It doesn't matter. Now, I think what to do. The technology has prevented Imali from speaking to all of us, and therefore, so according to the agenda of the day, now we have the opportunity to listen to our two speakers. That is Chandru, who have been already introduced, but I think it's even better if you can introduce them again, because I think some of the people joined little later.
Okay.
So,
thanks, Ajith.
Okay. Now this, yeah, but you can also explain this one and how they can download this. Yeah.
Okay. So we found an interesting article on the organizational level biases. It's from the Strategic Institute. We will share the link at the end of this session. It talks about, apart from unconscious bias, it talks about other types of bias that is present in organizational level.
Okay. Thank you, Audrey. I think you should be having the introductions of Kaushal and Chandru with you. Will it be possible for you to do the honors again? Because I'm sure some of them did not really get the chance to know about them at the very beginning.
Okay. Thanks, Ajith. Thanks again. So we have today with us Chandru, who is the founder director of Provincial Youth Empowerment Network. PYEN in the northern Sri Lanka. It is a youth-led voluntary network that is working with youth empowerment. He is a trainer on diversity and inclusion, which is a part of human resource management, and is part of the Connect, Respect, Grow ideology in order to create a conducive work environment. Kaushal, who is the HR director of Pizza Hut and Taco Bell, is also sitting in the council of SLEDA. Thanks, Kaushal, for joining us.
Pleasure.
He's exceptionally strong in areas of industrial relations and employee relations, compensation and benefits management, talent management, strategic HR management. His career path has taken him through diverse range of industries, and we are sure to get a full wealth of knowledge from the both of them. Thanks both for joining us today for the discussion. So let me pose the first question to, please feel free, either one of you, to, tell us about...
Audrey, yeah, why don't we, to start with, can you tell a bit about your role and the kind of organization that you are in? Over to you,
Chandru, you want to
Chandru,
go?
we can start with you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Ajith and Audrey. Before I move on, then can you all hear me well? Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
Right. With that, I am Chanthuru. I am speaking from Jaffna, from the northern corner of Sri Lanka. It is another good thing that technology connect us. Since Audrey spelled that, I am very passionate on connect, respect, and grow, part of the HR management. As you mentioned that, I am very professional in terms of dealing with young people. Specifically, I am really passionate. The first slide talk about our office, we need young bloods. From having said that, I am working with the young people, creating them in a meaningful job placement in terms of respect, connect, and the growth together as a holistic team with the respect of diversity and inclusion platform. I'm doing many trainings and connecting with young people. I'm doing some training with the HR professionals. I'm also dealing with some university students, specifically my strong background on sociology, specifically in the social sciences background. That's all about me. Thank you.
Excellent. Can we also now listen to Kaushal? Yes, it's the same question, Kaushal. So you can bet on.
Thank you, Ajith. So I think Audrey mentioned all about myself, but beyond that, what I have to say is that I started as a pretty junior HR executive, and over the past 17 years, have climbed the ladder. Working in different organizations, local organizations, multinational organizations in Sri Lanka and overseas. So it had given me the luxury of seeing the world, seeing different facets of lives of people. So I'm currently working for Pizza Hut and Taco Bell, which is again a global organization. What keeps me live these days is a project what we are doing in terms of embracing inclusivity to the organization, as well as helping the disadvantaged youth of this country in terms of uplifting their skill sets. So I'm pretty much passionate about approaching HR with a higher degree of common sense and practicality. That is what I believe in my viewpoint for HR. Yeah, so that's about me. A very brief intro, Ajith.
That's great. So, could you also just step on to sharing now that you are on the main screen. Before I move on to Chandru, uh, I mean, could you please share with us your own thoughts and experience and how biases affect the way we work? And especially in the project, you can also talk a little bit about your special project in Pizza Hut. And I mean, that's your uh, kind of passion and kind of a pet project going on with Pizza Hut. You can talk about that as well. At the same time, you can tell us what's your experience in getting these biases handled at the organizational level or even individual level?
All right. So I think we are human. We all have our likes and dislikes. But what happens is influences such as our background, experiences, and environmental conditions can all play a part in shaping our choices, whether we realize it or not. That's the beauty of it. For the most part, this is not a major issue. But what happens is when we display this unconscious bias, when we favor or discriminate against people because of these influences, then without realizing it, that becomes an issue. In fact, unconscious bias can have a very big impact on people-related decisions at work, especially when it comes to recruitment, where we are trying to bring in people from different backgrounds. And once someone joins in, when we're trying to facilitate their career growth inside the organization, where we look at, moving them up on the career ladder, and when we evaluate them on a constant basis, on a frequent manner, where we get into the performance management discussions. And on a day-to-day basis, all organizations are built of people, and everyone needs to have a say in what they do. So especially when it comes to idea generation, this unconscious bias comes to play, because if you are biased, that you will see only one side of the picture. You will not open yourself to see what is unseen for you, which is seen for the others. So what happens is, if you aren't aware of what is really tightening you in taking decisions, in considering about others, that will hinder your organizational growth in the longer run. Now, for an example, let me throw a classic example now. We work in the fast food restaurant industry. All right. So when we work in the fast food restaurant industry, a pizza, generally your in-store time, it needs to be less than 12 minutes, which means to say that when a customer walks in, you have to take down the order, you have to prepare the pizza, you have to send it through the oven, which takes about 6 to 7 minutes, and you have to take it out. So that you've got about 12 minutes. When we as an organization came up with this thought to have people with disabilities come work in a store like ordinary other employees, if my operations team had a biasness towards ordinary people, no, we can't do this, then this idea, the whole thing what we are doing right now, wouldn't have been a reality. So I take that as the simplest example to say, if you have biases inside you, could it be towards gender, could it be towards ability, could it be towards any other mean, which is you are not aware, then it will hinder the growth of the organization.
Thanks, Kaushal. Thanks for sharing that. Chandru, with your experience, could you share some examples with us as well on how bias affects the organization?
Thank you very much, Audrey. I'm also totally relay with Kaushal. Having said that, we all have biases. So we need to recognize that. We all have that. Sometimes it makes pro and sometimes it makes con. So making that or giving that acknowledgement, it's an connecting point to us working as a people management sector. And also, I would like to bring another point is that, so how this bias comes, those we learned stereotypes, and that are automatically, unintentionally, and deeply ingraining and universal, and it able to influence our decision as well as our action. So these patterns develop over time and operate without our conscious and consideration. So from the experience of working with the young people, we can see the different level of understanding, the people with a different ideology, the people with a different opinion. At the same time, we have some gender or ability and intersectionalities, and and many other things comes into our mind when we are talking about this bias. And also, it is kind of a permanent topic while talking about people management. So why it's come to the people as a permanent topic in the people management sector, as a human resources or any other avenue, it is good to understand how the bias is formed. From most of the time, it is from our own experience. We have to avoid that. That's one. And thinking other people, but the people tell us. First, we learn something and from own experience, and sometimes the people tell us something in the different perspective. And the media play a major role in terms of creating the bias. And the institutional influence, how we influence other structures as a factor in order to form the biases and so on. And other external influence. So working in the network, as from the Provincial Youth Empowerment Network, working with the network and having connection with many young people, I come across this kind of things in several corners. And it's made me in some time to understand the reality and make some decision and how it's influenced me and how my action is inclusive towards the young people. So these are the things we have generally understand. So I would like to bring one point here. How I understand this, it's really important to us to acknowledging that everyone have the ideology of this bias, and it is normal. Why I am saying it's normal? Because we learned throughout the journey what we have so far. So that is my sort of experience to acknowledging that, and it's bring a very good and fruitful, conducive environment to working with the young people. Still, I have the passionate on that. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank
Thanks
you, Chanthuru.
so much.
Thank you. Let's see whether Imali can be heard by us. Now the lightning has come down. Imali, you can give it a try. No, I don't think so. Okay, so for the next question, I would like Audrey, are you going to ask the question, or shall I go ahead and ask the question?
Yeah, Ajith, I was actually thinking of a follow-up question from Chandru. Kaushal actually, also explained about individual level biases, right? About understanding our own individual bias, and then, kind of thinking critically where you look at it from different angles and then challenging assumptions to get over. As a trainer, Chandru, I was wondering your experience in dealing with biases and how you go about changing mindsets at a larger level. I mean, you have control over your thinking, but how do you influence and start that journey of changing, biases and opening people up as a trainer?
Very good question, Audrey. Putting me in a very hot seat now. Because you are saying that it's a big change Therefore, I am started it from a small starting point, which is active listening. During my training, all the time I emphasize the people to listen others. In I would say sometime, we are listening the question in order to answer to the person who asked the question. That is a noble concept we have. But for myself, normally I am telling to my the participants or my students or my colleagues, first, the active listening, it's a really interesting waypoint we can start to fight this kind of bias. So that is a small point. I strongly believe that we can make it in a big change. And that kind of active listening make us build trust among us. I listened the things from you. If I feel comfortable to talk or give my opinion to other people in the water cooler, next to water cooler or next to the tea pantry or during the dining table or lunch room, that is all about the trust, all about the confidence come because of the trust we build during several or many avenues. So the second point is the building trust. It's a very important milestone in order to eliminate this kind of thing in a thing. And again, I would like to say the team and the collaboration. It nothing else to the new point of things to add. So active listening, building trust, and working as a team and getting the collaboration, it's good. During that collaboration, we can explore our own biases. Then we can get the feedback from the people, and we can adjust ourselves whether it is right or wrong, or it is normal or abnormal, or whether it is a new or old. So that kind of things I am always emphasizing to my participants. Start from listening and create your trust among the people and explore yourself in order to understand whether your ideology is in a actual way or are you in the tactics. And also appreciating the people to talk and connect. So I really love the way you spell that I am passionate on connect, respect, and grow. That's why it is my process to, I'm always emphasize to my participant to encourage the different perspectives. So let them talk. So these are the main point. I give it to my participant to make it some change as you ask in a long-term perspective. That's all, Audrey. I hope I answered you.
Yes. Thank you, Chandru. Thank you very much. Kaushal, anything that you would like to add?
What I would like to touch upon, Audrey, from in the organizational context, what we can do, how we can help our teams, our leaders to get away from biases and to think conscious. So, to start with, I think there has to be self-awareness. So, one of the things what we need to embrace and encourage is peer-to-peer recognition in public forums. So that will definitely foster a sense of connection, a shared purpose, and belongingness among employees. Now, imagine the situation if I'm working in a group of people and if I'm not comfortable to recognize one of my own peers because I have certain biases which restrains me or blocks me in getting there. So that's one of the stumbling blocks that we need to get away. Then what we need to do is, like as Chandru said, invest in training. Where in that what we need to do is we need to help managers to focus on inclusivity, diversity in the conscious mind, and sharpening the ability to identify instances of intended and unconscious biases which is happening in the workplace. So it is basically again creating awareness. Then being leaders, what you could do is you could set up diverse groups to work together, and working together helping them to achieve a common goal. So once they achieve something, then what they do is they start believing in this whole setup. Now imagine a situation, you put different people together and you help them, you navigate through them through a whole journey and ensure that they accomplish a common goal. Then they start believing in the whole process. They build confidence and trust. And finally, what I think is, as an organization, as a leadership, if you want to foster this inside your organization, you may be taking a lot of initiatives, and you should be open and courageous enough to solicit honest feedback about from your employees or from your stakeholders about the company's efforts to foster a diverse, inclusive environment by way of eradicating biases. So that's a little bit I could add on the topic, Audrey.
Thanks so much, Kaushal. Kaushal, different question. Talking about biases and diversity and inclusion, it's not always easy to show the financial side of things, right? How do you, kind of sell the idea in a quantifiable way? This is something that, we've had repeated questions from our audience. How do you kind of sell, this concept of diverse and the investment that you need to make and show the profitability side of it to your management, to your stakeholders?
I don't know. I really don't want to see diversity from rupees and cents. I really don't want to wear that lens. Now, look at organizations, global organizations. Even in the opening video, it clearly showed how Starbucks was impacted. Right? If you go search, there could be multiple videos, multiple documentaries, multiple research papers where you can find about how organizations are impacted because of this unconscious bias. But what I don't like to advise or what I don't like to interpret is that you need to think of diversity and inclusion, taking off your biases to gain financials. I don't think that. I think it will be a result of your action, but it shouldn't be your motive. Your motive should be to make it inclusive for everyone. Give everyone an equal opportunity to come and work. That's where you have diversity. That's where you really believe in inclusion. Because if not, you are another selfish Wall Street manager where you will really go behind your rupees and cents. It doesn't serve the purpose. I think if someone is thinking taking off biases and letting everyone come into the organization to achieve your bottom line, I'm sorry, I'm not in agreement with that. Yeah, because you look at religions. I'm a Buddhist, and as the Lord Buddha said, we tend to collect things, connect things, and collecting and connecting things will create grief. So that is what is happening in organization. You tend to connect yourself without knowing, knowing or without knowingly, and organization will go through repercussions. Instead, what you need to do is you need to show the positivity of this. If you are away from your biases, if you give the organization you keep the doors open and let people from different backgrounds, different religions, different cultures come in, different abilities come in, that your organization will be a whole different place because of the ideas they bring in. That's where these ideas will generate into your plans, actions, and your numbers will grow up. But if someone asks me, I'm reiterating, if someone asks me if you want to convince your board to bring in diversity to make your bottom line good, looks good, I'm sorry, I'm not in agreement.
I think that's an excellent response to the money component of the diversity, equity, and inclusion effort, isn't it, Audrey? Hello? Okay, anybody hear me?
Yeah, we do hear you. I think Audrey's screen is frozen.
Okay, maybe. Today is a difficult day. I think there is some rain and something happening as well. All right, so Chandru, now that we are here on the platform only with me, I hope other two will join us in a short while. Now, what are the greatest challenges that you have faced in launching a DEI policy or launching a DEI uh, framework inside your organization? Chandru.
Yes. Thank you very much, Adi. I copy. You can hear me, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Uh, I would like to pick up.
Uh-oh. Got a little bit of a disturbance. You can go ahead from the beginning, I think. Kaushal, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Ajith.
Yeah, Kaushal, why don't you go ahead first? Let's listen to Chandru later.
All right. So now, getting there, Ajit. For me, diversity is really the mix of different identities and cultures and experiences that our individuals share, and some are in common and some are obviously different from each other. But for me, as I believe, the inclusion is a whole different story, right? Inclusion is an action. It's
Yeah.
about being intentional. It's really about building the kind of culture and the environment, and especially if you're in a workplace, there are people of every background can come and thrive and contribute and to be seen. And actually, also, I say three different things to sort of making sure that people are feeling included. One is they are expected to be there, and they are expected to be good. Two is that they are reflected in the policies and practices. Some of these are formal and some of them are informal. And the third thing is that uh, they are feel respected, and they feel like they are belonged, and they feel like they are engaged in the most exciting aspects of the particular environment. Now, if you look at we and I, when we had put this into an organization which had been there for some time, where some of the employees have been there for some ages, for them to change their mentality towards getting this way is the biggest challenge. So if someone is in the belief that um, inside the organization, in all these organizations we have we say, okay, this is the culture of our organizations, and a lot of times what we see is we see a culture fit, because we believe someone who comes from out needs to come and fit into the culture. We don't really believe that person comes in and needs to drive a difference. So if there's a set culture of that nature, are the existing people, will they be willing to get someone to come and make them feel they are welcome? Will they give a newcomer to be seen? Will they respect? Will they make sure that the new people will be felt the sense of belongingness? So those are the challenges what we have definitely at a workplace, because these resistances are triggered because of your unconscious biases.
Yeah. I mean, it says that the diversity is inviting to the party, and inclusion is actually asking to dance or joining the dance.
Exactly.
So
So
it's easier
now
to invite to the party,
I know. So now,
but dance with them is the real test.
I'll pick a very quick example, Ajith. When I
Yeah.
worked at Ceylon Tobacco, so our tagline, in terms of our employer branding, one of our taglines was "Bring your difference." So we firmly believe that anyone who come join Ceylon Tobacco, they need to be different from one to another. So that's the main reason why the leaders who have been started their careers in Ceylon Tobacco are representing, even in the BAT framework, starting from the Globe House to even in other organizations taking high positions.
All right. Okay. Do we have any more questions, Audrey?
I think we've kind of overstepped our time on the question part. Maybe if we
Yeah,
take some
that's okay.
questions from our participants. Ajith?
Okay, let me see. Okay, as we all know, there's a little kind of 5 to 10-second delay in having these questions coming from the people. Okay, let me throw out a question from this to Kaushal. We'll have to wait until Chandru rejoins. Okay, I think he's also there. Yeah.
Yes, I'm here.
All right, great. Okay, first question is actually to Chandru. Chandru,
Okay.
You said that you are, you are giving leadership to a youth organization in the north. And the question is, what kind of challenges that you have, especially in the post war situation in the north? How do they feel about the diversity, inclusion, and especially the equity part as well? I hope you got my question.
Yes, Ajith. Yes, it's a very good question and very relevant to my concept as well. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. The thing is, in the post-conflict scenario, making people to understand diversity is a strength is a big challenge. I would say like that. So, actually speaking, the diversity is a challenge. Where I got this point from Kaushal, emphasized that it is a strength for us, even working as a network or the organization or any offices or any other forms of people gathering. But the problem is that the people are coming from the different scenarios, different experiences, different ideologies. Having said that, it is really hard to explain the people that diversity is a strength. And then this equity and the inclusion, it's really important in order to create a conducive environment where we are working. So giving some sort of awareness or giving some sort of sensitization or giving some sort of dissemination in this regard, it is a very time consumable. And I am pretty sure it take times, but it will make a positive change in the society. Therefore, it is really important to create a continuous dialogue and continuous conversation in this regard. So I would say these are the challenges. At the same time, we have the recovery mechanism. It's that to make a continuous dialogue on this diversity, equity, and inclusion in order to make it the strength and the conducive environment where we are working.
All right. Thank you very much. Kaushal, I have a small question for you. This is with regard to the special project that you have inside the organization, that is the inclusion or the diversity related project, where you have uh, created some kind of uproar in the marketplace as well. And of course, uproar in the sense not a negatively uproar, but a very positive uproar as well. Now, what was your initial, or what was the organization's initial process that they have gone through to make this happen? How did it start? How did the germination of the idea came up? And how much of resistance was there at the beginning? And how did the customer perceive the whole project, and so on? If you could let us know, that would
Sure.
be nice.
So Ajit, we started this idea generation process somewhere around mid 2017, because we were looking at the organization was growing, and we were looking at different avenues. Because when we were in a process of mapping out potential, people who can come work in this organization, so we looked at different avenues, and all of a sudden we realized, look here, that in this country, there's more than 5% of people with disabilities where they have not been considered as a productive source of talent to the workforce of this country. So we wanted to start something. So then the main challenge what we faced was, okay, how practical this is, because we are working in the fast food restaurant industry, as I said, 12 minutes, and whether they will be able to cope up with it. So we looked at globally, there had not been any Pizza Hut operation where they had an exclusive outlet run by them. There had been countries where they had a minority of PWDs working, but nothing as an exclusive store. So the first thing what we did was, as the management team, we believed in it. So which in the change management process, we would say we gave our sponsorship towards this idea. So we started believing it. Then what we wanted to do was, we wanted to get our rest of the teams aligned with this idea. So it was about then selling what is the difference, and why do we need to do that, and what is the benefit to the organization as well as to the communities. So we went through that, and quite surprisingly, initially, I thought that there will be major resistance coming from operations, because finally they are responsible for the numbers, they are responsible for these kids. But they embraced this idea. So one of the major challenges what I had was, Ajith, when we were to start this process, there wasn't any place for us to go train these kids, because some of the technical words we use, some of the jargon we use, predominantly the kids whom we recruited were with hearing and speech impairments. So in the sign language, they did not have this terminology. So they had to create sign language for it. So they did it. And the initial challenge was to get them trained. So we had to send them to the normal outlets where we have our people. So we anticipated a lot of resistance, but it was the other way around. They started learning, they started blending really well. And when we wanted to get these kids to Colombo in November 2018 to start the Thimbirigas IS2, that was the time where we realized by going through different Facebook posts where, now for an example, let's say if I was a PWD getting myself trained in the Kandy outlet, now I've been asked to come to Colombo. And the rest of the employees who are working in the Kandy outlet, the things that they have posted on Facebook, how much they're going to miss me, how much they're going to miss their colleague. even though that person could not talk to them or listen to what they say. That was hard for me. And they came in here and they integrated really well. I will tell you as to why we wanted to make it an exclusive outlet first. We wanted to make it make some social impact there, Ajith. We strategically picked Timbirigasai because when we look at Timbirigasai, the crowd who associate this store are mostly from decision authorities. Could it be corporates or could it be the government sector? So the message spread it. We did not spend a single penny in terms of talking about this, in terms of blowing the trumpet. All the rigor, all the publicity came in was through word of mouth. Customers loved it because, and there had been customers where they as a practice, they took their kids there to show the different side of life, to get their kids to interact with these employees and to show them what they have and what some others don't have to, and to appreciate it. Now what we are in the process is, Ajith, now we are going to make the real inclusivity happening. That is where we consider this Timbirigasaya store as a training hub. We bring in people there, we get them trained, and then we disseminate these people to the regular outlets where they will go, include in that culture, include themselves in that culture, and to make it a regular operation. That's where the real inclusivity is happening. And also we have pledged ourselves, as this is one of our key CSR programs, and we are investing our time, effort, and money to develop these kids at Pizza Hut and even at different vocational training centers, and ensure that it's not only the Pizza Hut doors, but the doors of the rest of the organizations will also be open for them to have a good life.
Okay, but I have a question just to follow up that question.
Sure.
Is this outlet profitable?
This is profitable.
Okay, number one. Number two,
because,
what's the next?
Okay, let me tell you. All Pizza Hut outlets, Ajith, they run as profit centers. All Pizza Hut outlets. So if an outlet is not profitable, there won't be any sustainability.
Yeah, but of course, an organization can support one outlet through the other outlets in terms of the business decision. But in your case, what you're saying is this particular outlet is profitable because it is all with centers of the organization.
Yeah, and it's self-sufficient.
Yes, that's right. Next, what? What's next? What would be your future ambitions with regard to the inclusion, diversity agenda?
Okay, so what we are doing right now, Ajith, now we have very open mind towards now. We started with we wanted to experiment this, and to start with, we started with hearing and speech impaired employees. Now, recently we linked up with the Social Services Department and Child Fund Sri Lanka, and we developed a training center in the Gampaha district in a city called Amunakumbura. So that vocational training center is providing training predominantly for GWDs, girls with disabilities, and that has a mix of disabilities, not only hearing and speech. There are mentally retarded people also. So what we want to do is we want to open our doors for different aspects of disabilities, not to limit for one. And we are thinking, we are exploring the best ways to include people with vision impairments to come work with us. So that's what we are looking at from a disability perspective. And also, I think what we see is, can I take another minute and complete?
Sure.
Yeah. So in this country, Ajith,
5 minutes to complete.
Sure. In this country, there are a lot of people who are disadvantaged. Now, imagine a lot of employees of ours and rest of the organizations What they do is they simply qualify their O levels or finish their O levels. They have a lot of economic issues at the home fronts. They come join an organization to start earn a living. Right. So when they get into the race, they will not have time to go qualify themselves, and because of that, their lives will be stuck at it will be capped at a certain level. Yeah. So what we're trying to do, we've already worked with the Vocational Training Authority, and we've established national vocational qualification for the employees who work with us at NVQ level 4 right now, and to issue them and to recognize them on their learnings at Pizza Hut with a national vocational qualification. So that gives them a paper.
Okay.
And also we are intended to work with the authorities to scale up this project over 60 vocational training centers, so that anyone who has a difficulty in learning, who has a difficulty in funding them to learn, they can come, they can certify and open the doors in the restaurant industry in Sri Lanka and overseas.
Okay, thank you very much, Kaushal. I don't know whether Chandru can hear us. Chandru, are you with us? If so, I have just a little question. Imali, can you also give it a try again towards the
Hi there.
the final move?
Can you hear me now?
Oh yes, very well. Okay, thank you. Right, okay. Okay, Imali, just go ahead and speak to us. I don't know whether Chandru will is anything in particular to say. I think we promised our audience about our what do you call the questions. Can I first show the answers or the questions and the slides on the screen?
I think that would be useful if you can project the slides again, or if we are running short of time. I'm just happy to review the answers. So the first one,
just hold on a minute. Yeah, 1 minute.
Okay. So meanwhile, I think I've also been listening to Kaushal and Chanthuru run through some of those great insights and sharing on projects as well as on the concept of diversity, which are very really interesting.
Okay. Let me share it on screen. Okay. So this is the first one.
Yeah.
Over.
Okay, so this is right. Thank you. Well, this can be termed as a stereotyping and discrimination, especially towards older staff or those from a senior age group. And second one. Right, now this can be termed as a tendency due to affinity. You see, the girl associates a candidate who has applied for a hiring process who has come from the same school. So this is basically an affinity towards someone who belongs to the same social background or the school she has attended. So that is a tendency.
So it's a tendency.
Yeah.
Third one, we need to focus on diversity.
Okay, it's not a very common thing, I think. Still, okay, so this is basically a very opinion statement, and that's a prejudice. So the answer is A.
Yeah. And the last one is about the bandana and tattoo guy who is the marketing manager. What is your answer to this one? I think I know. Probably I have some idea.
Right. Now,
Yes.
there's a common notion that those attitude are very casual in appearance and therefore do not strictly professional roles. So the answer is either C or C, where it could be termed as stereotyping or judgment.
Okay. The is true there? Has he? Yes. Okay. Let me add him as well to the final uh, 2 minutes, and I'll stop sharing the. Yeah. Okay. True. Are we there? Yes. All right. Chandru, could you hear me,
Yes, please.
or do we hear him? All right, great. So we have come to the very end of our session, but I have a very, very small question for you, which might need a very long answer, but you can do it as briefly as possible. I'm sure as much as we have people who are differently abled, uh, in northern and east provinces, I have heard, I don't know how it is true, that we have very much a larger number of youth who are physically disabled due to the fighting and the war that has taken their lives at very, very young ages, and they have taken, they have been injured and so on. Now, what kind of project are you seeing happen in the Northern Peninsula to bring them back to the mainstream, social mainstream, so that there is inclusion and they are provided with such opportunities so that there is equity for this diverse group of people? Over to you.
Yeah, well, thank you, Ajith. In the note, as you mentioned, that there are many person with disability organization working, and I closely working with some network because, as you mentioned, that there are many young people, young person with disabilities are there. So specifically, I would like to say they are engaging in agriculture activities, most of them, because that is the treasure and that is the way they are very interesting to do and so on. Specifically, we're working with some groups and some people in doing some calligraph and hand making productions specifically to the making it in outlets. So, and also the trainings at the same time, encouraging the young people with disability to involve in this progress are happening now. In conclusion, I would like to say the increasing community acceptance we can observe. At the same time, it is bringing the diversity and inclusion with the equity back. Thank you.
All right. So, thank you. On behalf of Asia Pacific HR Academy, I thank Kaushal and Chandru for this evening, spending your most valuable. Help us to spread this concept in Sri Lanka in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion. I would also thank my colleagues in this project, um, Audrey Fernando, who is also a director of Asia Pacific HR Academy, and Imali Anuradha Jayawardene. Thank you very much. We have had quite a time getting ready for this event with the technical challenges that we have and so on and so forth. So this is the third one. We have a few more in the lineup. So that we are going to have it on
Ajith, you are inaudible.
Hi, Ajith. Okay. I believe Ajith might have got disconnected. What we would like to say is that we are hoping to have the next discussion on the 24th of April. We are going to be talking about power dynamics, and we hope to see everyone join us again and help us get. Hi, Ajith. I will. I will pass the ball over to you.
All
I
right,
mentioned.
that's okay. Yeah. So thank you very much, and thank you, Chandru. Thank you, Kaushal, again for your most valuable time. And audience, our listeners and viewers, please book the date. That is 20, uh, 24th April this year, where we will be bringing in two authors on power dynamics to let us know how the power dynamic happen in organizations, and what is the effect that it has on people, especially in the arena of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So until we meet up again, thank you very much, and see you again in a future time with the least amount of disturbances technically in the next one. So goodbye, everybody. Thank you very much,
Good night.
and good night.
Thank you.
Goodbye and good night. Thank you.
Thank you.